What is going on, you guys? Steve with the video for you today. So today we're going to do a hobby talk video, and it kind of came upon request of this topic. So it came from Brian over at BearCards34. So before we get too much more into in depth, I just want to give Brian's channel a shout out. A link to his channel will be in my description. Now, one thing I absolutely like about Brian's channel is, he's a football guy, football card collector guy, and most people don't know this about me, but I absolutely love football. I love the speed of the game. I don't like the NFL as much as I used to, but I'll still try to watch, you know, uh, at least the Thursday night football game, and usually one game on Sunday, whether it's an early game or later game, whether it be on CBS or Fox. Um, I do try to sneak in at least one or two games of the NFL a week. And I also, college football, huge Nebraska Cornhusker guy, born and raised in Nebraska. So, the Scarlet and Red run deep in my roots. They say this is going to be Nebraska's year to get back to the old glory days, or at least be competitive. They say that every year. We'll see what happens. But with Brian, Chicago Bears fan, and I want to say in Utah. I don't want to say the Utah Utes, but I want to say it's the Utah State Aggies. So he's a big football fan, and that's what I love about this community is it can intertwine channels and sports together. And even though I absolutely love my baseball, I enjoy watching people share football cards, especially. I am soft on like the 80s and 90s and into the early 2000s football cards. Love seeing that kind of stuff. And Brian just shares a little bit of everything. I know he's got a really nice Walter Payton run going for. He wants to get them all slabbed up from Walter Payton's playing days. So that's been pretty cool to see. So please go check him out. One of my favorite must watches when it comes to watching YouTube channels. Just really respect him and his attitude towards not only how he collects, but YouTube itself. So a link to his channel in my description. Please go check him out. And let's see. So let's get into what I kind of want to talk about. We're already 2 minutes into it. So we're going to talk about me with the history of collecting, and probably a little bit about myself as well. Let's see. Let's just kind of start off with I was born and raised in Nebraska, as I said earlier. Grew up in a small town called Palmyra, Nebraska, and for you guys that don't know, it's kind of, I want to say, south of Lincoln. That was my childhood there, and you're not getting, you're not near the Kansas-Nebraska border, but you're getting close. You're on your way down there. Kind of lived there for, I don't know. I think my parents moved us to Omaha and maybe about when I was in the 4th or 5th grade. But I collected back then. This would have been, the mid to late 80s. I really remember really just opening up packs of like 1987, 1988, and 1989 tops. Didn't have any Donruss. I don't know why, but yeah, I always remember opening up those tops. And I would sort them by back then. I would sort them by teams. I had this little metal box, and I would just put the cards into this metal box. And 1987 was my favorite back then, and it's still high up there as one of my favorites. But I was sorting through teams, and I had like a little index card that would say like Chicago Cubs or Cleveland Indians or whatever, and that's just kind of how I collected through my childhood. And then, my parents moved us to, my sister and me to Omaha, Nebraska. We lived in a suburb called Millard for many years. And, my collecting still happened. And, moving from a small town, Nebraska, with about 400 people to, the metropolitan of Omaha. And back then, Omaha was considered a small city. I think it's considered like a mid-major city now. But, it's a huge change, in the small towns. You didn't really worry about like clothing brands and all that kind of stuff. And in the city, you get judged by that kind of stuff. So I started probably early junior high when my parents moved us out there, and I still collected sports cards, and it was actually a way to kind of make friends. When you're moving in, I met some childhood friends and in Omaha, and I still collected. And moving to Omaha, there was an opportunity to see like baseball card shops, and I remember this baseball card shop my dad would always take me to. It was called the Stadium Club. Like the card brand, this Top Stadium Club. It was called the Stadium Club, and that's kind of when I started getting into like individual players. I started collecting massively, like Ryan Sandberg and all those cubbies back then. Mark Grace, Andre Dawson. Oh, and I really started getting into like Cal Ripken Jr., Mark McGuire. And I remember, getting the rated rookie Mark McGuire, and when I got that when he was hitting all those home runs, and man, I really thought I was gonna be able to buy a car with that one day, and I had it all cased up and on display, and obviously you can get it for a couple bucks now. But yeah, that's kind of when my turn took to individual players, and that's kind of how my collecting stuck all the way to today. Honestly, is I prefer collecting players instead of team sets or whatever. So yeah, that went on honestly all the way through high school. I still remember in junior high, early high school, I remember going to like Kmart and opening up packs. I wouldn't get a lot of packs to open. I've always kind of been an individual card guy, but opening up packs of metal, Fleer metal, Skybox metal, and open up. I had really got into the '90s designs, and the '90s was just a fun and wild and really unique time to collect cards, in my opinion, and really got into opening up packs, during that Fleer metal era, and Fleer Flare, everything. Pacific was incredible to me back then. Upper Deck was always challenging everybody. Yeah, I really got into that. I didn't actually do too much tops back then because everything was just so wild and unique. And then did that pretty much all the way through high school. Then after that, I graduated in 2001, so that that will tell you I was born in 1983. I still collected, through 2001. Not as hard as obviously my childhood, but I still picked stuff up here and there. And then I moved on my own. Got a nice little apartment in Omaha. Lived there for several years, and I remember one day my dad called me up, and I'm gonna say this was probably right around 2000, maybe 2006, something like that. And he had all my old sports cards. My sports cards stayed at my parents' house when I moved out. I got out of collecting then, and I remember after a couple of years out, I was into going to the bars and partying, that kind of stuff. And he calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I got all your old sports cards sitting in your old bedroom, and if you don't want to come by and pick them up, they're going to be hitting the trash here probably in about a month." So I got those cards, and it kind of reflared up my collecting again. So all in all, I was really only out of collecting for maybe 2-3 years, something like that. And it kind of re-triggered it again. And then that's about when I started getting into vintage cards. So that was Brian Burkhurst 34's question was, that's when I got into vintage, and been hitting vintage ever since then. And I don't know, several years back, that's when I decided to start a YouTube channel, and I get to interconnect with you guys, and because not a lot of my friends outside of this in Omaha or Nebraska, they don't really collect sports cards. I know a couple guys, but yeah, the YouTube sports community has really opened up a door for me to interact and talk to like-minded collectors like myself. And that's another thing too, is like I like it all, man. I don't I love seeing vintage baseball, but as I said, with Brian Burkhurst 34, I love seeing the football. Leafs Fan Down Under, those hockey channels. I love seeing, I was a huge hockey fan. I'll just say my favorite teams. So growing up, and I don't know why this happened, but on the East Coast, I was always a Patriots, New England Patriots, New Jersey Devils, and New York Nets fan. I have no idea how all that happened. And then, for MLB, I landed the Chicago Cubs, so right in the Midwest, not too far from where I live. Don't know how all that happened. I think it's really just team colors and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, uh, it's kind of how it's all really been since then. And you guys know my collecting habits. I don't sit there and talk about the grade number on the card. I don't care. I'm not, that kind of collector, which there's nothing wrong with it. I just ungraded, graded, I'm just happy with the card. And if it looks well, even if it's a PSA 1 or authentic, it's going to be just as loved as a CSG, whatever number, or ungraded. I don't care. It's just a joy to have that card in my collection. You're not going to hear any type of advice on this channel. Or hot topics of what's hot and cold. I love my autograph Don Larson just as much as my autograph Rick Wilkins. It doesn't really matter, and we'll say that too. So autographs, I actually started picking that up maybe right around COVID time, when all the prices were getting out of control. Autograph cards, though, it kind of just didn't really go up or down much there for the longest of time. So I was like, I'm just gonna I'm getting into these autograph cards, and that's just what I'm gonna start collecting. And that's kind of where autograph cards picked up, was right around the COVID time, and I've really enjoyed. It's taken off for me since then. I'm at the 11-minute mark, guys. I never like to push a video past usually the 9-minute mark. So appreciate you guys watching. Please go check out Brian Bear Cards 34. I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a history on me and really my collecting habits. So take care and stay safe, everybody. Thanks again.